This is one of the most violent and ruthless pirates in all of One Piece. A man who took out one of the 4 emperors and exchanged blows with 2 more. This is someone who after 2 years in the New World has lost an arm but gained enormous power in return. While Luffy is going to face the mysterious and destructive powers of Blackbeard as his biggest fight in the story yet, he is bound to take down his foil, Shanks. And according to Eiichiro Oda himself, the true reason that he wants to take down Shanks is not related to losing his arm. Equipped with the frightening combination of both a devastating and fully awakened devil fruit and the will of a conqueror, he doesn't show any mercy to his enemies, like these one here who he had crucified and disposed of, as he's willing to do literally anything, even the most unthinkable things, to get a step closer to his ultimate goal. The throne of the pirate world. But then there's also this, the worries and love for a nakama, growing closer and fighting side by side with Luffy, until we actually see him cheering for Luffy and trusting in his powers. So how do these 2 radically different traits come together in the same person? Who is this man that shares so many similarities with the most mysterious and powerful characters in One Piece? His red hair, his missing arm, the scars over his eyes, and what is his actual purpose as Luffy's arguably most evil ally in the story? This gruesome depiction here is an illustration of something that actually happened, because Captain Eustass Kid and his character are inspired by the real-life pirates Eustass the Monk and Captain William Kidd. The latter was infamous for his cruelty. William Kidd was also the son of another famous pirate, Captain John Kidd, and who knew? This elderly gentleman with a very unhealthy complexion is actually the infamous Captain John, a former member of the Rocks Pirates and revived by Gecko Moria here. And even though admittedly Kid looks a lot more like another certain redhead pirate, it has been speculated that this guy right here might be a much more likely candidate for Kid's father that he never had. And I think this also shows in his devil fruit powers. While Luffy is creative, flexible, and funny, just like his rubbery sun god devil fruit, Kid's cold, iron heart, and edgy nature is wonderfully embodied in his Jiki Jiki fruit, that not only looks absolutely fire, but is also ridiculously powerful. Now, sadly, we didn't get to see much of Kid's fighting before Onigashima, especially this moment right here where he was ambushed by Kaido. God, I wish we'd get to see that. These panels during Onigashima, however, do show us how his fruit truly works in its pure and awakened form. And so I truly feel that Eiichiro Oda, the author of One Piece, has fully made up for this. This here, for example, is a technique called Punk Clash, one of Kid's strongest abilities, turning Big Mom into such a strong magnet that even giant steel beams from the castle wall crushed into her. And while in his base form, Kid himself is magnetic, his awakening allows him to assign magnetism to areas and objects that he touches. In other words, an extremely overpowered ability, as I think Big Mom's defeat at Kid's in-law's hands more than clearly proves. I think when Eustass Kid introduced himself to us for the very first time in the story, overseeing the terrible human auction on Sabaody, he also gave us the most important piece of information about himself. As he watches nobles and other people with money and influence enter the auction house to buy people like property, he tells us exactly what he thinks about all that. World nobles, slaves, human shops. Against the purity of the so-called nobles, the villains of the world look positively humane in comparison. It's because the world's in the hands of such scum like these that it's all broken. I mean, we're not the nicest of guys, but at least we're honest about it. Kid is very much aware that he's not exactly on the jolly side of piracy like Luffy is. He knows very well that the things he does are terrible. However, if he sees himself down here on the moral ladder, the people who actually rule this world, like the Celestial Dragons, are not only 5 levels below him, but also responsible for people like him to become this twisted and cruel in the first place. And I believe that this is also how we tend to see Kid as well, as a much darker version of Luffy, who's willing to do messed up things, very extremely messed up things. But at the same time, it seems pretty clear that he also is fighting for a world without the government, or at least a world where he can be free from people like the government, just like Luffy. And that's exactly the main point of his character. What I find beyond interesting is that Eustass Kid doesn't only play the contrasting character for one, but 2 people in the story. This is Kid's gigantic magnetic arm next to Luffy's gear 3rd. Here are Luffy and Kid having a competition about literally anything in Udon Prison. Who can carry the most, who can eat the most, who can make Queen's eyes bulge the most. And this is Kid, just like Luffy, beaten by Kaido in a cell, but refusing to give up. Both of them hate nothing more than losing. Both on 𝚬𝚙𝚎𝚑𝚝 and on Wano, we see Luffy and Kid storming on ahead, with Law trying to rein them in and protect their bags from any kind of threat. And so, not for nothing has Kid always been portrayed as the Straw Hats' #1 rival among the supernova for becoming king of the pirates. Now that's all nice and good, but what then is the deal with him and Shanks? A very popular saying that you might have come across somewhere before is that Kid is Luffy without the plot armor. And even though I really don't like that term, because plot armor is basically just plot, I do agree with the idea behind this. You see, on the plus side, Kid is Luffy, but not bound to the classic moral standards of a shonen hero. Yes, he loves and trusts his crew, just like Luffy, but towards literally anyone else, he's just straight out cruel. And he can use any means possible to get stronger and achieve the very same dream as Luffy, without Oda-sensei having to worry at all about the message that this might send to his core audience. On the downside, however, not being Luffy also means that Kid doesn't share his unique ability to create allies wherever he goes that help him become stronger. Instead of being trained by Rayleigh for 2 years in a row, he directly marches into the New World, where he almost loses his life to Shanks. Oh yeah, Shanks. Missing arm, scar over the eye, red hair. Really, no coincidence, because this is the second character that Kid is a direct foil to. Think about it. Shanks sacrificed an arm to inspire Luffy to become a pirate, while taking an arm from Kid, who for some mysterious reason is absolutely obsessed with him. While Shanks really doesn't mind having just one arm, Kid clearly feels the strong need to replace it with his devil fruit powers, though I do honestly on a personal level fully understand that. The main point of comparison, however, between this Yonko and this supernova, however, is how they deal with the people who laugh at them and doubt them. As you well know, in chapter 1 of the story, just after Luffy has eaten his mythical zone devil fruit, Shanks calmly takes a beating by Higuma and his mountain bandits. Something that Luffy then later on coolly imitates on Jaya with Bellamy. In fact, if you're curious why that was such a big deal in the first place, I made a whole video about just that scene with Bellamy and Blackbeard. The point is, Kid behaves, well, just like a kid. Just like Kid Luffy, he punishes and kills those who dare to laugh at his dreams, whereas Luffy and Shanks pity those without any dreams and don't see them as worthy opponents in the first place. And so, in other words, Kid quite literally, to his name, needs to grow up, which, as we will see in a second, he has really been doing during the Wano arc. Now, I just recently bought the 14th volume of the official One Piece magazine, fittingly enough titled Rivals, by the way, that had a massive character discussion section about Kid that helped me a lot with this analysis, honestly. Finally, all that Japanese study coming in handy, I guess. The main theme of Kid and his crew is literally that of rebels, of being anti-establishment, if you want. Kid obviously has a strong steampunk, heavy metal sort of theme going on. Just look at his pack, punk rotten, and those goggles in particular. And I mean, the ship he's sailing on is just awesome. I mean, it's by far my favorite design in the entire story. It's called the Victoria Punk and has this giant skull of whatever animal that is at its bow. And funnily enough, apart from Kid and his childhood friend Killer, the name of every single one of his crew members is based on famous rock bands or any other music-related terms. Heat, who can literally breathe fire, is based on this Swedish band. This is Wire, named after the English rock band. There are also House, Boogie, and my two favorite nakama, Hip and Hop, who I do think have the most awesome and also most lazy names in all of One Piece at the same time. The second and much more hidden theme in the crew is something I would never have guessed though, honestly. The Kid Pirates are also hippies. Look at this. These are Killer's pants and this is Heat's outfit. Can't really unsee it once you know, can you? And to me it makes a really good job at reflecting these two sides of Kid and his crew. The rough and edgy together with this sort of kind of fun and kind and peaceful side of him. A fun little story I also discussed while looking through this is that Kid and Killer are not only best childhood friends from the South Blue, but that they also had the same childhood crush that spilled a bowl of udon over herself at some point. Which is why now it is both of their least favorite foods, which is a hilarious little pun Oda-sensei has made because both Kid and Killer were held captive in Udon prison, but I also think that it once again hints at Kid's kinder and more caring nature as well. I kinda sidetracked there for a second, but I'm convinced that we got all of these little details because they help illustrate who Kid truly is as a character. Kid clearly has suffered through a lot of trauma and pain throughout his life. This, for example, is him as a kid. Kid, if you want so. And clearly growing up in a harsh environment. According to Oda-sensei, Kid's most important principle in life is having no concern for anyone but his nakama. In other words, for those he trusts, Kid would do anything, something he proves to us with his reaction when he finds out that Killer has been forced to eat a smile devil fruit. However, it is also really obvious that it is really hard for him to actually build trust with others in the first place. Which of course really hits home the one time we see him begrudgingly form an alliance with Apu and Hawkins, only to be betrayed like 5 minutes later, literally. So when you look at this Kid at the beginning of Wano, angry, distrusting, versus this Kid right here, thrilled with the joy of battle and trusting in Luffy to take down Kaido 1 versus 1. Damn girl, what an emotional glow up. I mean, in the beginning, he only joins the raid because he wants revenge on Kaido, kind of tagging along while still doing his own thing. Like, I'm not part of this alliance, but I guess you will lose without me, so I'll come. Strong tsundere vibes from Kid right there. I think spending time with Luffy and Udon definitely was the basis for him even tagging along in the first place. But he was still going to be the one who takes down Kaido. This here, however, is the very first major change of character he shows us, as he sees Zoro heroically risking his own life for everyone else on the roof. As Kid very well understands, that is not something that a traitor would actually do. And so over the course of the fight, Kid sees the true nature of Luffy, Zoro, and Law, and while he does keep arguing with all of them a lot, he more and more integrates as part of the team. He counts on Law to have his back and starts coordinating his attacks with him and Luffy. And ultimately, when Big Mom finally reappears, he focuses on separating the two Yonko, now fully believing in Luffy and acknowledging his true powers. I honestly think it's also more than likely that Kid might accompany Luffy to this island, where Shanks is most likely waiting and where he will finally be able to confront him, because Elbaf has been foreshadowed as the next major arc in the story. And so if you want to know all the crazy events that might await Kid and Luffy on the Island of the Giants, you really should watch this video here next and see what the story could have in store for them. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.